Wednesday, April 9th. I know so it's March 12th. Regular board meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I can have the reading of the mission and vision statement.
I can read the vision. Richmond Community Schools, a collaborative community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
The mission statement: Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to the future of limitless possibilities.
Thank you. Moving on to celebrations. Dr. Wright.
President Pickering, trustees, I'm going to ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, our Director of Student Support and Communications, join us this evening to pay homage to our honorees. Welcome back, Mrs. Hazelbaker.
Thank you. We'll be celebrating the Richmond High School Red Devil Players Drama Club. Recently, they had a performance here at McGuire Hall, and then I actually saw several of these lesbians at the Charles Literacy Night. Some were there dressed up in characters and reading different books. So can you guys please come up here and have you guys introduce yourself, and then the board will ask you some questions as well.
Jacqueline Bartlemy, co-director of the Drama Club.
Hello, I'm Archer Bunner, and I am the assistant director, and I teach them how to dance when we do musicals.
Lillian Koblenz, actress.
Hi, I'm Lemon Swanson.
Hi, I'm Nexus Carter.
Hi, I'm Lotus McAdams.
Hi, Hilda McCurry.
Hi, I'm Bailey Shin.
Hi, I'm Gracie Branham. All right, so also, I love that you guys had your name. I'd love to know what grade you're in as well. And tell me a little bit about what it's like to be a Red Devil player. Who would like to speak? Do we have a senior up here? Oh no. Or I think you probably, none of you are shy, which is great. So anyway, come on up. Anybody.
Hi, I'm a senior, but I've only been in the Red Devil Players for 1 year, which is this year. But I've had a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun just hanging out with my friends after school and making a big production that we get to put on together. And I really like my directors, so I mean that's also a bonus. And it's very structured, but it's also very low stakes, which is really nice.
Anybody else want to share anything about?
I'm a sophomore, and I've been doing the Red Devil Players since I was in my freshman year. I worked tech for one show, and then I was in the play, and then I was in the music this year, and I worked tech for the play. It's so fun. It's like when I don't have a show going on after school, it's devastating because I just have so much fun. I feel like my skills improve every show we do. Like Bailey said, our directors are so nice and understanding, and they teach us so much, and I've made a lot of really nice connections. Really fun. It's really good.
Now, did anybody do middle school drama or Dennis, anything? Because they're having a production this weekend, Frozen Junior. Any you planning to see that?
Yeah.
Oh, all of you are. Good. There's Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday. Now, how was it playing in McGuire Hall? I mean, tell me how that venue is.
So it's been an interesting thing. It's been great that we have gone through a lot of renovation, which has been really nice. There are definitely still some things we can build upon. For example, we're still trying to increase the capacity of the sound system because especially for musicals, it's really imperative that you're able to mic every student who has important lines, important solos, so that we're able to hear them over the music. And that is definitely a challenge. We're having to kind of currently composite different microphone systems from different things. Some of it gets controlled from backstage, some of it from the booth in the back. So that's a bit of a challenge. So we'd like to continue improving that system. And then additionally, we'd really like to continue improving the fly system, which is the rigging. We currently only have 2 moving lines, which makes scene changes really difficult. And they're on a very ancient sandbag system, which is not always the safest system, especially when the sandbags have to sit at floor level. And that's the only thing balancing what's hanging in the rafters. So that's not an ideal situation for keeping kids safe. Most theaters have moved to a more complicated double pulley system because that is safer in the long run. And having more moving lines obviously means it's more things we can teach the kids to do. It's more things we can build upon with the program. But it has been really nice that we have LED lights now. So we're slowly making our way there, but the more things we can get to improve the experience for these guys, the better off the program's going to be, and the more the program's going to build, and obviously better for all of us.
I know, Dr. Wright, you saw the show. Can you tell us a little bit about what you saw?
Absolutely, and I also was joined in attendance by Member Stevens. I think some other members may have also had an opportunity to see it. Madam Mayor, you spoke so eloquently and so well, just as you did on the evening of the play. And for the other actors and actresses, again, just phenomenal performance. How you all have the courage to get up and know that you all, the spotlight literally is on you. At that age, I definitely could not do so. And so, as I briefly shared with you all prior to the start of the meeting, the only frustration that I had was from we audience members. Whereas the play, again, titled The Day the Internet Died, what you all were trying to teach upon us was to break away from the virtual world. And as soon as the play was over, everyone turned back to their devices. And it just was, but the creativity, the imagination. I had an opportunity to be a stagehand while at Roland College as an undergrad, and people have no clue what goes on behind the scenes to make it all work. And the enthusiasm, the joy, the love, the passion, again, with the leadership that you have, it's not surprising. But the efforts that you all put in, I was just elated, just truly elated. And how you all were able to roll around on the ground and jump around and throw yourselves and jump back up. All I kept thinking of is I'd still be laying there needing medical assistance to pull off some of that acting. And so, tremendous job.
If there had been a second showing the night that I saw it, I would have stayed and watched it again. You all are phenomenal. And I know that I spoke with you, and thank you. What is it more that we can do to help you financially or anything else for the future? Because when I was so impressed with everything that occurred that night and what I watched, and it's one of those hidden gems that maybe not a lot of people know about, but we need to do something to make sure that everybody knows about it.
Thank you so much.
You both say whatever you want.
I think that just staying on top of like when the shows are gonna be and like sharing those with your friends, like word of mouth really is just still the best way to get people in. Like we've increased a lot of our social media presence, and school's been doing a really good job of promoting it. But that's like butts and seats is like the thing that's gonna get us like the funding that we need to like improve our sound and our costumes and our makeup and be able to do some of the bigger productions that I know the students want to be able to do.
Yeah, we are entirely self-funded. We don't have a budget outside of what we raise. So any sponsorships we are able to get from patrons, any audience who comes in, that's all the funding we have. Unless we happen upon like a grant that renovates the space. So anything we can do to come across additional monies is fantastic to help us. Like I said, we've got those systems that the more we can build them and upgrade them to improve the experience for the kids and improve things safety wise for the kids. I did forget to mention, we only have one electrical outlet on the entire stage. That would be a great upgrade too. It creates an interesting challenge when you're trying to work things backstage. But yeah, these kids have big dreams of great shows they would like to do. So anything we can do to make that possible for them is always welcome help.
So how do you decide what are the future shows? I mean, how do you guys come up with that?
So we kind of just get asked. Basically, they give us a little document and we can kind of vote on it, and we'll do little read-throughs of possible shows that we could do for the next upcoming year and things like that. Really, I think.
Yeah, and then ultimately we look at what affordability and doability with the space we have.
And how many students do you have? I mean, overall, as far as the cast, how many students are?
Depends on the show.
Yeah.
What was our biggest cast this year?
Probably have about 20 to 25, including all the people who help backstage.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of stage hands who
Yeah.
move all the props and run the lights and run the sound. So students run pretty much, other than the fly system, which is an adult runs. A lot of the backstage stuff's run by students.
Other question?
Yeah, I just want to say, keep up the good work. You know, I think you guys all have aspirations, but also I remember as a little kid coming and seeing little Abner at the corner, that the high school put on, and you know, you're inspiring little kids, and you all don't even know it. So, keep up the good work, and I hope you all have a future.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly say thanks to Richmond Civic Theater for being a big support for us. A lot of the volunteers there have also helped volunteer with costume and makeup and set building. So it's really good to have like that community connection as well.
So what's that photograph right here?
Would you want to agree or is it?
We have to get in.
Yeah, you guys are gonna be. Oh, we're sorry. This way. So, scooch. Under window. Gotcha. Thank you.
Up next, we have public commentary. Miss Hazel Baker, do we have anyone signed up for public commentary?
Not have any.
Okay, great. Okay, moving on to our next session today, which is retention survey data report. Dr. Wright.
The President Pickering Trustees, and I'm going to ask Mr. Stacy Moss, our Director of Human Resources, join us for tonight's work session presentation. Mr. Moss, welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Snuck up on me a little bit. I wasn't.
Without that public commentary.
Okay. So, the employee retention survey and its current format was started in the winter of 2023, late winter of 2023. For the past 3 years, we sent the survey out to all employees. You might have gotten it, I'm not sure. We sent it out to all employees. So the questions haven't changed in those 3 years. I didn't develop it. There's some questions that I would change personally, but that's a personal thing. But we wanted to keep it all the same. So that way we had good data to compare from year to year, and that's what we really work for. The questions, like I said, the survey is broken up into 5 sections. The first is the information of the employee. What building are you in? What position do you have? And then the second section is the employee engagement section, followed by workplace culture section, career development section, and then compensation section. And lastly, we have a management section. And many of the questions are radio buttons like you choose, like which of the following best describes the answer to this question, or how likely are you to yes, no, somewhat. But then others are open-ended questions when they can type something in. Participation survey is completely voluntary and it's completely anonymous. We don't know who completes the survey. And we try not to interpret what the employee is trying to say. What we do is we look at the data completely and have that drive some of the decisions that we as cabinet and we as a school district make. So with that being said, I know it's really small. Everybody has access to it if you've got a device, even in the audience or at home watching on YouTube or wherever. So you can access this. The important thing is to look at the colors, and I will tell you what those colors are as we go through this. And I didn't do all of them. If you have any questions, you can let me know. But let's just look through some of this. Is your job satisfying? So the first row is 24, 25. That's this year. We sent this out in January of this year. And the blue is yes, the orange is somewhat, and the yellow is no. So is your job satisfying? This year, 66.9% of the employees that answered. And when I say employees, that is coaches, substitute teachers, substitute paraprofessionals, central office staff, board members, anybody could have answered. So this comes from anybody and everybody. So if we start at the bottom in 2023, 57.5% said that yes, it is satisfying. And 2 years later, we're up to almost 67%. So that is a trend that makes me happy. And no went from 4.5% in 2023 up to now it's lower to 3.2%. So that is trending in a way that we want to see a trend.
Quick question. Looks like we had a lot more responses. Any thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
I want to share that too.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up. No, I had it written right here. Remember Weber, so thanks for bringing that up. So in 2022-23, we had 292 respondents. The next year we had less. We were down 39. We only had 253 respondents. And this year we had 317 respondents, which is up 64 from last year and almost almost 30 from the 2 years ago, which results in 35% of our employees. And I think that's a pretty good number for a volunteer survey that surveys everybody, including coaches that probably never check their email. So I think that's a pretty good number to me. Generally, we have like close to 800 employees that are like daily employees that are here every day that work. So that's almost, that's 45% ish. So that I think is pretty good too. Member Weber, thanks for reminding me to go back and hit that.
Any thoughts on why?
Any thoughts on why? So we only had it up for 2 weeks. I believe only 2 weeks. Reminders were sent out. This is important to us. I don't know if it's important to the employees, but it is really important to us. And a couple other things I was going to hit on either during or later, but I'll go ahead and hit on it now. We sent this out in January, and if any of you have spent any time in a classroom or in a school building, January, February, and March, the first couple weeks of March are the roughest times to be a teacher. I mean, they are very difficult. You get to school and it's dark. By the time you leave, it's dark because the time is, because the sun sets earlier, and it is just very difficult. So I think if we sent this out the week after spring break, it'd probably be a lot happier results for us. But no, we're not going to do that. We're going to be consistent when we ask. So I think that's a big part of it. Also, I think sometimes when you look at some of the compensation, in negotiating times and with raises, people are always happier when they get a raise. And, if you did that right after we got raises, or that would probably make a difference too. But once again, we just want to be consistent when we do these things.
Mr. Bob Suppose can add to, based on some of the conversations I've been having over the last 2 weeks. I think we also could attest and infer that faculty staff understanding and knowing that we're utilizing this data to drive our decision making while we're being data informed. I think faculty staff have come to appreciate. What's been expressed. They've come to appreciate our response to the data as to providing them with that many more supports, resources, and development.
Yeah, and I hope to give you some solid, real examples of how we've used this to help guide us. Mm-hmm. And there's some of these questions that hit HR a lot harder, and there's some questions that might hit the assistant superintendents in charge of curriculum a lot harder, and there's some that might hit you a lot harder, and some that might hit Dr. Wright a lot harder. So, but they all really touch us, because if we have happy employees, then we should have happier students. And so if it's not helping our students, then we shouldn't be doing it. That's my thoughts on it. Okay, so how often do you feel proud about something you've achieved at work? I really don't like this question, but I went ahead and included it. So you can see the percentages there. They too have kind of trended more towards the positive. And the thing to look at board member Weber's point, look at the percentages. I can give you the raw numbers, but those don't mean nearly as much as what the percentages do. So the top one is this year. The next one is the previous year, and then this is 2 years ago. Once again, you can see the blues are they're exactly the same for this year and last year, and that's daily. 1 to 2 times a week is kind of the orange. The yellow is multiple times a month. Green is multiple times a year, and purple is rarely, and the light blue is never. And we didn't have any nevers this year, so that's good news. What would you consider to be the most challenging aspects of your position? And this is an interesting one. So, and I'm going to have to read these to you because they're too small to see. So this was a fill in the blank one. And there were some options that they could select, and they could pick as many as they wanted. For example, this year's, there were 82 responses, 82 different factors. And as I was reading through them, I was going, yeah, yep, I get that one too. So let's look at 22-23 first. And if you see it, student discipline is the first one. I started my career in the late 90s or the early 90s, and guess what? Student discipline really makes it tough to teach sometimes. The second thing, and I think this I think is important for HR and really for all central office, lack of communication. The third one, balancing differentiated instruction, lack of needed support, and extended work hours and stress there. So that was 22-23. 23-24, it is exactly the same, in the same order. And I just did the top 5. I told you there were plenty, so I just did the top 5. And I said 82, probably 70 of those are one-timers. Like, my door squeaks when I open it. That might be one. Okay, so and then this year, and this is what I like. This, first of all, you can see one thing. The top one last year was almost 60%. The top one this year is 40%. So that dropped 20% for the number one thing. And so then I think that says something too. Even though student discipline is still number one, it dropped almost 20 percentage points. And I can tell you what that is. It is. So student discipline this year was 41.6. Last year was 57.7. So it dropped 16 points. But you see the lack of effective communication moved down 1. So I'm pretty happy about that. Last year, lack of effective communication was 39.1, and this year it's 34.1. So it dropped 5 points. And so that's one thing that we've really worked on. We send out every 2 weeks, I was sending out an insurance Friday tidbits on giving people hints on insurance to let them know what could be, the difference in insurance or things that are available through insurance. I know Miss Markward sends out a s'mores every week to our administrators for them to share things to their teachers. One thing that we've done, and the first edition is just finishing up the first 2 weeks, is we send out, we called it the potty press. It sits in the bathrooms, and if you go into our staff bathroom here and wash your hands, you're going to see some things in there that are we feel like important to our faculty and staff. As I was thinking about this, I was thinking, why don't they just read their emails? I send out emails, and I'm very particular about, I only want to put things that fit in the window so they don't have to scroll. But then I think, well, if they don't answer or if they don't read the emails, then it's not effective communication, and that's not on them, that's on me. So I got to find out how they're going to receive my communication. And so I got one back today from Mr. Lee. He said he enjoys the potty press. So we got the second edition coming out Friday. So look forward to that. But once again, that's us looking at this data, finding what we can, some of that low hanging fruit, some of that stuff that we can really hit to make things better, and our response to that. So there you can see it. And the other thing I think is important to point out here too is balancing different learning needs of each student. And I think, that's pretty high there. And I remember that when I was a teacher, that is difficult to do. I mean, it is really hard. But I think the thing that I really like about that being up there is teachers recognize that they have they have to teach differently to different students. If that wasn't on there at all, I'd be a little worried because I think, well, they're not worried about that because I know how hard it is. And I think they're not changing what they're doing. But by having that high, it seems to me that they are aware of it and they do it, but it is difficult, and it is. So, but I think we are coming up with some ideas and some things to kind of help that out too with some of the new curriculum that we've been passing out. So, okay, let's go on. The next one I have. Your workload scale, I think this one's pretty interesting. If you look at 22-23, 1 to 10 was pretty low. It was only 31%. But if you look at the next one, it was up to 19.8%. And if you look at this year, 6.9%. And if you see that, if you look through these three, it's moving left. Like the bell curve is shifting left, which is what we really want. It does, and if you also look here, it's kind of evened out too. It's less of a bell curve. So once again, that shows that it shows me that we're making progress on that, and we're trying to help teachers not to create more work for themselves, and to help kind of reduce some of that workload. The highest one here was 24.3, and that was an 8. So I think that's moving and trending in a positive direction for us. How likely would you be to recommend a job to community schools to a family member or friend? There's some. So here we go. If we look at 22-23, highly likely is blue, 14.4%, 14.4 likely, 28.1. Yellow is somewhat likely. Green is 30.8, not likely. There you can see they trended a little bit better for us. But if you look here, we're up to a 19.6 on highly likely, which is just about what it was last year. And we're a little bit higher on likely, 5 points higher there. And but not likely dropped 8 points. So I think that's trending in the right direction there too. So if we go on, do you feel you can be yourself around your supervisor? I think this is a really important one. I was pretty happy with this one. So if we look at 22-23, 63% or almost 64% of our employees thought they could be themselves around their supervisor. Last year it went up to 68%, so it rose about 4%. This year it's 77.3%, so it went up 9%. And so you think, what did we do from last year to this year for that to happen? I mean, we could say, well, it just happened, or we could say, we've done something to create that, or probably less here and more at the buildings. So what is that? And we'll get to that in a minute because I think there's another graph that's going to help us out with that too. Do you feel that you can be yourself around coworkers? And you can see that it's about the same. It didn't jump too much from 22-23 to this year is about 4%. So it's kind of stayed pretty steady. This next one, which I think is where I want to bring up something really positive too. That's another reaction from Dr. Wright that he felt was important for us. And that is, do you feel you can bring up problems to your supervisor? And if so, that your supervisor will address them. And so if we look at 22-23, we're huddling right there around 50%. Not very much. So if an employee, any employee has a problem, about half of them felt like they could go to their supervisor and they get something done. Last year it was 55.7, so it raised a little bit. This year, 58.7. So from 2 years ago, it's gone up about 9%. And so you think to yourself, what happened in the last 2 years that might have helped that out? And one thing that we've done is we've had the open forum, which is for anybody in the building to raise issues with the building leader. And what they do is they post that. Those are scheduled out. Like one building might have it the third Thursday of every month. And so they'll say they'll do it the third Thursday of every month. And then they post a common Word doc that people can put, and say some ops, and I really don't like that. That it smells like evergreen in my room. I don't know, whatever it is. And so then the principal can look at that and say, well, why do we have to wait until the third Thursday to take care of that? I'll just go to Stacy right now. We'll take care of it. And so we're finding a lot of those issues are being taken care of within 24 hours and not having to wait 2 weeks to get something taken care of. And I think that also helps in that relationship with all the employees and their building leader. And I think that that's a big spot for that 9% jump in this category. Going down through, how much do you think the employer values your contribution, with 1 being not at all and 10 being highly valued? 17% 10, 18% 8. So it's really skewed to the right. If we look last year, we had right in the middle was a pretty high one 2 years ago, and it was pretty even right across the board. So once again, I think we're skewing a little bit to the positive for us. And I think a lot of that goes right back to those principals giving everybody in the building the opportunity to solve their problems and having that open communication. So I think that that's important. This is how your coworkers value your contribution, with 1 being not at all, 10 being highly valued, and the scale it's kind of they're all kind of the same. They're all kind of pushed to the right a little bit. Rate how RCS is responsive to core needs within the workplace. So the first one is compensation and pay. Blue, far left, is ineffective. And it's interesting to me, we use the same terms that we use when we do our evaluations for all of our employees. So far left is compensation. The next one is ineffective. The next one is needs improvement. The yellow one is effective, and the green is highly effective. So compensation and pay. If you look across and 2 years ago, they were really happy with compensation and pay, a lot happier than they are now. So we always try to work with that, and I'm not sure anybody's ever happy with their compensation and pay, but that doesn't mean that we don't value what they're saying. Job security is pretty effective. They're pretty effective with that. That's kind of trends the same way. The next one is opportunities to use skills and abilities. That's right there. Physical environment is right there. Feeling valued. It looks like the blue line there, that ineffective line, has dropped a little bit as we look from last year to this year. And effective communication, if we look at that, that's probably about where we were last year too, maybe a little bit better, but not.
Mr. Mouse, if I may, I apologize.
Yes.
I'm reading this. If you can scroll back up to the top to this year's data. If I'm not mistaken, again, the scale changes because of such growth. For example, job security, when you look at 23, 24, as well as some of the others, the scale moves from just 150 being the ceiling, 23, 24.
Right.
And so.
It's good catch, Doctor, right? Thanks.
No, but as far as it being safe, there are differences.
Right.
There's growth.
And I have those raw numbers for you, and let me read them. Let me read those percentages off to you. So if we look at that, so in 24-25, it was 30%, or I'm sorry, 9% highly effective. Wait, that's compensation. So one we were looking at was feeling valued. Feeling valued was 18% last year. Feeling valued this year is 35%. So there's an example of a big jump. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That's the same one. Are you satisfied with the compensation package that you currently receive? Pay, once again, a lot are not happy with compensation. But if you look at retirement benefits, that's overwhelmingly people are satisfied with that. Insurance benefits, they're satisfied with that. Additional incentives, I'm not sure what those would be. We don't have a lot of incentives in education, because we don't have bonuses. We don't have a lot of those things. And then time off, they're highly happy with that. If you look at last year, once again, last year was a negotiating year, so they did get raises, and so that might help with that compensation being right there, even with yes and no. Retirement benefits was all once again pretty high. Insurance was once again the scale changed on us, so insurance is a little bit less than 125, and if you look at it this year, it's close to 150. And these are raw responses here, I guess. I've got the percentages for these as well. Let me share those with you because that's a lot better to hear. So if we look at retirement benefits, 63. I'm sorry. Oh no, I don't have the percentages. I'm sorry about that. So I just have the raw numbers there, but anyway, you can see how those tend. 24-25, does your supervisor provide you with the support you need to complete your work? If we go, we'll start at the bottom again. 22-23, 55%. Last year, 62.5% were yes, and this year we're up to 63.1%. A little bit of growth, but not as much. But once again, here I would like to say that we've started some really tough new curriculum. Wit and wisdom is tough. We've shared with our staff that it's a process. We understand that. We're giving grace this year. We're giving grace next year. And so even though it's tough, it's still they still feel like they have a little more support this year than they had last year. Scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your supervisor communication with your team, with 1 being ineffective and 5 being highly effective? We'll start at the bottom. So 2 years ago, it was 26.4% were 5, 31.5% were 4, and 25.3% were 3. Last year, 24%, so dropped a little bit last year. Went up a little bit for number 4 and went down a little bit for number 3. And this year, we're at 30%, which is higher than for the 5, for the most effective or the best communication. So we jumped up 6% from last year. So I think that once again is that communication piece. We've worked really hard on that. So the recognition you receive from your supervisor.
Mr. Miles,
yes,
we have to minimize. I think there we
go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you satisfied with the recognition you received from your supervisor this year? 58%. Yes. 29% somewhat, and 12.5% no. Last year it was 55%, so we jumped a little bit there. And then 2 years ago it was only 53%, so that's trending in the right direction as well. And I believe that is everything. So with that, I want to wrap it up. I'm sure I've answered every question that you guys have in this breathtaking presentation. So what's the purpose and where do we go from here? So we've done this. It probably takes 5 minutes to fill out the survey. I appreciate everybody doing that, that did that. So what we do with this is we take this data and we can break it down by school. And so we share that with our administrators at the building level. And we say, here's your raw data. And we take some of the narrative and so some people do identify themselves in their narrative. If they say I'm the interventionist, then we need more of might be only one interventionist in that building. So we'll try to clean that up so nobody can be identified to the principal, and we'll share that with the principal, and we'll say, do this with what is going to help you. Take this data and figure out how it helps you to make better decisions in your building. Cabinet gets us data and it helps us make decisions. We worked really hard at communication. I think we've seen the results. So, are we happy with where it is? No. We always try to strive to be better. And we'll continue to use the same format. We might use the same questions next year. We may change a couple up. We'll see what we do with that. And then we use all this data to make data-driven decisions to help our kids have a better experience here at school. And what questions do you have? Thanks.
I have one more comment. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Well, no, and I know you already probably know this because I've heard you guys talk about it last year. Green is good. A green, yellow, red.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, I don't know if I can change that at all.
I realize probably from the last surveys.
Yeah.
But if our biggest section is, effective, we want that to be green. We don't want it to be red, which is just like a little tiny.
It should be something I can change. And Google Forms.
Yeah, because when you see
that.
it, you can immediately identify.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one level. And I would if you have things that you all want to change, it sounds like you have ideas, or I could see us getting into detail or follow up, what is overwhelming? That's just one thing I wrote down of, is your workload overwhelming? But why?
Well, and some of them do that in the narrative, and I didn't share that with you because they're so individual.
No, totally.
So some of them do that. I mean, I think there were 3 or 4 different areas where they can type to their heart's content, right, and okay. Some of them do. And that's good. I mean, that's really good information. So in your response, yeah, some of them do do that, and I appreciate that. It's it's terrible to say. Well, it's kind of the same way. Kim, I really appreciate you.
Mhm.
I really value you. Yeah, but it's much better if I say I really appreciate the time that you spend and talking to kids all the time in the hallway. I appreciate that. So that means a lot more to you than, and I think it's the same way. You know what? I really don't feel valued by my administrator. Well, why? Because we can't fix that if we don't know why. I mean, it could be because they don't have great coffee in the lounge. I don't know. Whatever it could be. So that's why it's good to know. And so, and maybe we can put something in there. This is your opportunity to explain some of your answers.
Yeah,
So that's
I
a
think
good take.
those little tidbits.
Yeah.
And the
Thank
other thing is, do you, if you share out to principals, do you address maybe the outliers? Like maybe a certain school, they're sort of an outlier from what you see. Do you let the schools or departments or how you break it down see kind of all the data and then how their school compares? Because I think that's important too.
We generally don't share the other schools' data with them. We kind of break it up to theirs only. And last year, I think we shared it late. Like we shared it last fall, and we said we can't do that this year. We got to get this out to them. And so those meetings are coming up in the next couple of weeks that we're going to share their data with them because they can't do it. I mean, we had somebody come through and they said it's like autopsy data. You get it after the corpse is there. So we don't want that. We want to get it to them before so they can do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, absolutely. And we also tell them, you know what, if you got these comments, and some of them are very nice, and so take it for what it is. I mean, if you read that and you think, wow, that is something that be self-reflective and have this work for you. Don't spend your time defending it. And that's what I've tried not to do. Let's not defend this. Well, how can they say that? Because it's not true. Well, you know what? They believe it is. And they think it is. And so that's what's important. So what do we do to change that? So, so we do share that with the principals. And we tell them not get discouraged by it either. Because, it can be, you might have 10 great comments. You might go, okay, whatever. And then you see that one and you're going, what do I do? And that hurts. And that's hard for educators sometimes.
The people that don't speak up, that's when you gotta get scared.
Yeah.
People aren't sharing.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I would just add, thank you for putting this together and sharing it with us. And I'm glad that something is done with the survey results. I think that's important for me. And I appreciate that it's anonymous. I get an anonymous survey at the end of every class that I teach at IU East where the students can, share. It's, when it's anonymous, you can share, and it's helpful. And I think
it's very free for them.
It is for sure. And as an instructor or a supervisor or whoever's getting the information, it can be very helpful as well. So, their thoughts are valued, even though they want to, they have a forum. We invite people to come here and to reach out to the board, but here's a forum, another opportunity to share that can have an impact when it goes back to your school. So,
well, and I think that goes back to Member Weber's comment earlier. Why the numbers, and maybe they didn't trust us the first year we gave it. When I filled the surveys, I'm like, is it really anonymous or is it not? And so maybe they trust us more that it is, and maybe they've seen that we have worked on some of the things, and so now they see value in making those answers, and so they are answering them. So that both of those could be.
I'll probably send you a follow up in regards to the categories that I found most interesting. That is the balancing the different needs of students, and you touched on that, because in the future, I'd like to understand better what challenges they face, and if that has anything to do with the extended hour concern or the work hours, because no longer are we doing the cookie cutter teaching the students. But if you got a class of 13 or 14 students, those are 13 or 14 different learning styles. Yeah, but you've got
and levels.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so you've got to generate your teaching to each one of those students instead of one set of 14.
And I'm not sure there's a lot you can, I don't know, I could be wrong, but it is very difficult to do, but yet it's very required to do. And when you see the results, it makes it worthwhile, I guess. But yeah.
Just as a response to some of the things that you all mentioned, we definitely wanted to remain consistent, but definitely will incorporate the different color coding. But we also going back to what Mr. Mops alluded to, and 2 years ago when we approached this, ideal as a retention survey to continue to retain and also recruit educators from around the state. We wanted to make sure that year in and year out, it was the same data points, it was the same color code. We didn't want anyone to think that such data would not be accurate or doctored up in a way. So, but that is something we take a peek at. And then lastly, the question regarding some of the more detailed aspects of the responses. I know that these past 2 weeks and the next several days in visiting with teachers, I have truly enjoyed the conversations and the candidness and the trust that they've instilled in me, just as they had done a few semesters ago when I visited, in sharing those key details, which I'll then be providing for our team and building up leaders as well as teacher leaders to improve. I'm sorry.
I was just, one of my questions was, and it's probably going back to everyone else's, I'm thinking about our elementary schools, our secondary and high schools, and I'm pretty sure, do you have data that breaks it down?
Yeah, it's by school.
It's by
So yeah, so when they put it in, they go, I'm at the high school or I'm at Fairview, and that way when we break those down for the principals, that's how we know how to break that down.
Right. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that, so that when a principal gets that data, they
know it's me.
They know it's me. Yeah. Okay, and they can make that change necessary for the building year or the next school year.
Right. I want to comment on one other thing, and Dr. Wright, if you want to stop me, you just yell out "stop" right in the middle of this, because I'm gonna toot your horn a little bit. So in cabinet, Dr. Wright had met with 3 or 4 buildings last week. So in cabinet this week, he went through all the things that he discovered, and as a result for that, in just 2 days, we now have a para training set up for. So once a month, we're going to have a new para training. So if somebody was hired as a new para, we're going to get them training within the next month to help them, because when you get hired as a training as a para, you may have never been in a life skills class, and you just think, well, that's a job, and I like kids, but you might not know what you're getting into. So as a direct result of something that he learned last Friday, by Wednesday we have something set up for 2 weeks from today to start the training. And so once again, I think that shows the responsiveness of this team to the needs and the wants and the desires of our faculty and staff.
We've also been able to change the name in the software. We had since the cyber attack, there was a teacher whose name was misspelled, and now it's correctly spelled.
There you go.
We have a few other events, but no. That's
so he spent 20 minutes in cabinet going through, this is what I learned at this building, and this is what I learned at this building, and then we all take notes and do what we can with that. So
well, I appreciate that is making decisions based on data. It takes the ambiguity out of the equation, and it's like, this is what we're hearing, and this is what we need to address. So
well, and the other thing that Dr. Wright doesn't tolerate is excuses. You know why? We're lacking in effective communication. So let's not blame it on them for not getting the communication that we're giving. Let's figure out how they can get the communication that's needed. And let's take it to them the way they want to take it. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hobbs.
Great, moving on to consent items 5.01 and 5.02.
I move to approve the consent items as presented.
A second.
Motion by member Stoltz and a second by member Oboriaga. Any questions or comments?
As a comment or question maybe for Ron regarding minutes. Our minutes historically are fairly brief, I guess, with AI technology and whatnot. Would it behoove us to explore some additional minute-taking technologies to have a more thorough?
Well, you're not. The statute does not require minutes; it requires memoranda. And I think by definition, memoranda are less exhaustive and detailed than minutes. I mean, I see that as a spectrum. So I think it's entirely up to you folks as to what your comfort level is. Obviously, an element of not only transparency but avoiding revisionist history sometimes, or just people not remembering exactly what an issue might have been or the context in which it came. So, but I do also realize that I think with AI, there may be the opportunity to do that without it being terribly burdensome to whomever might have that responsibility. But I think that's up to you folks. There's no legal compelling need that I see.
That's actually a good point, Don. I know some, like, I don't know if we've talked about it. My company uses Teams, so they have it's like an app on Copilot. So, our meetings, we would just, Cindy, Miss Elsmeyer would log in. And we broadcast it, which we normally do. We have the capability and it takes all of the minutes, and then you can do a variety of things with it. Summarize it. Zoom has it too. I don't know. It's not true AI. I think Zoom's is just like a speech.
Well, even
but
I mean, I know we've referenced going back to the video so many times I can't lost count, but YouTube closed captions our meetings, and so the transcripts are there. Even I don't know how so somehow YouTube is transcribing the meetings, not live, but I think after they're processed. But it'd be much more efficient for the public to not have to watch a 2-hour board meeting to actually be able to read a 3-page, if they're so interested, document. I don't know, just a thought I had.
I guess the only follow-up I'd have on that would be, I don't know what our IT plans are to implement the July 1 mandate that your meetings be live streamed and available.
I think we're meeting everything.
I think you are.
I believe.
I think I've seen the little link too. No.
But it applies not just to the board, but it applies to every governmental public governing body whose meetings are held in this room. So it's important to make sure that we understand that, and then have the ability to archive it for the minimum 90-day requirements. So that's challenging some other units of government that may not be quite as tech advanced as this school corporation is.
And I don't know where the rest of the board lies. I'd be interested in hearing from IT to know what they thought, but I don't know. I mean, I'm just one.
Yeah, I would even maybe assume we've got the technology on some level. So maybe that's something we can ask Mr. Hazelbaker.
Yeah.
If we've got technology to.
I'd be interested in digging.
I would like to be
Just his thoughts and ideas. Maybe it is.
I do think, okay, like you mentioned, like 3 pages, whereas I guess I would rather still have a little more. I'd like it to be even shorter. The people that I know, they really do want to briefly go through it. And it may be that we, okay, do you want the cliff notes? Do you want the abbreviated? Do you want the unabridged? I mean, it could be that we have a variety if it's just a matter of pushing a button. How much detail do you want? So yeah.
Did you called it a memorandum? Okay.
The open door law requires that memoranda of minutes.
And it just shows who voted on and
it doesn't say it kind of leaves the board to determine its level of detail that it wishes to include.
Or even if we transcribed the meetings and had a link to that, possibly might be, rather than, I think it's a bit much to ask people to watch a YouTube video to have the transcript of the meeting.
Is it crazy to think, we just make the electronic version of the agenda, and then, I keep track of those, but Ms. Elsmeyer does too. So keeping track, I was just looking at the 3-6 work session. Those are.
I'm not a frequent flyer on YouTube, but don't you have the ability to fast forward? And basically, yes. So if you're looking for something,
yes. And sometimes the transcripts. I don't know. I know you can watch. We do kind of a closed captioning is what YouTube does, but sometimes YouTube videos actually have transcripts. Different options, I think.
My company uses Teams, and so when we do meetings and such sorts, they've got snippets. So you've got time scribes, like, hey, I'm just using this example. We're talking about insurance. It's at time 10 minutes. This is where you can start that process and go from there. I mean, the technology's there. And as AI is growing, I'm pretty sure everyone's aware. I mean, we can proceed with this. I would agree with you that we would need to probably.
I guess I don't really get the gist of the meeting looking at our minutes. So whatever we could do to kind of provide a little more clarity, information, clarity, I think would be beneficial for folks. Make a podcast, maybe.
John,
Is that what you're gonna do next year? He's gonna invite us all on his.
Well, that's what board briefs is,
I was
right?
gonna say, to remind the public that we do board briefs, which are a quick video of
A synopsis.
It would
yes.
be good to have a podcast.
Yes.
So I can remember the board briefs for one.
Yeah, okay, thanks. That's all.
Okay, all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Moving to action item 6.01, Dennis contract for HVAC bid project.
I move to approve 6.01, the Dennis contract for HVAC project is presented.
Second.
So a motion by member Stevens and a second by member Weber. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Next up, item 6.02, Orange Grove Therapy LLC.
I move we approve action item 6.02.
I'll second.
That was a motion by member Brunton and a second by member Stoltz. Any questions or comments?
Just so the public knows, Orange Grove Therapy contract would be speech and language services.
I did have one question. I looked back last year and I think that there was a note. It was funded by the IDEA 611 grant and the general fund. Do we still have a grant funds for this year or is it all?
What I'm gonna do is ask that Mrs. Carey, our exceptional learning director, as well
It'll
as
still be the same model as last year, same company, same model, partially covered out of the grant and the rest.
Okay, perfect.
and we definitely didn't want you to miss your cameo at the podium. It's okay.
I'm good with missing.
I figured as much. I figured as much.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mrs. Wolf.
All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Next up, item 6.03, Playground IEP Software and Services Agreement.
I move to approve 6.03, the playground IEP software services agreement as presented.
And I'll second that.
That was a motion by member Stevens and a second by member Schultz. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 6.04, Curtis and Livers Consulting LLC Independent Consultant Agreement.
I move that we approve item 6.04, Curtis and Livers Consulting Independent Consultant Agreement.
I'll second.
That was a motion by member Stoltz and a second by member Eloriaga. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 6.05, summer school offerings.
I approve to item 6.05, summer school offerings. That's presented.
A second.
The motion by member Eloriaga and a second by member Blunt. Any questions or comments?
I had a comment. I'm guessing we'll be following the summer camps, athletic camps. Last year, I think there was some issues with some disparity in fees, and I don't know where we're at. I think there's a discussion, do we even charge for camps? I guess before we approve, that comes to the board. I'd like to have a little more time to know where we're at, or maybe you already know, Dr. Wright.
This is primarily for summer school, the academic.
I know, but I know camps will be coming soon.
Oh, yeah, yes,
So-
we, I know that, the RHS athletic department is putting that together, so that will definitely be coming before you all.
But I remember that last year there was, different costs for different camps. And I just can't remember the discussion. So
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point to, once we review it, and making sure we've got that sort of equity within those.
Right. Definitely, we want to make sure that we provide the equity needed for these these kids coming to our facilities, and we represent RHS, and they get to just walk on the field and just that fresh breath air. I think we need to provide that equity for our kids.
All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Moving on to policy review. Just to note, we have several updates and a couple just technical corrections. First up is policy 7.01, policy 0144.1, compensation. There was a technical correction for this one.
I move to approve item 7.01, the policy 0144.1, compensation with the technical correction as presented.
I'll second. Actually, sorry. I think, hold on. 7.01, 7.02, and 7. We'll just do it one at a time. Never mind.
7.05, I think was the other 10.
Yeah. I think that she had planned to group them together. She put them on, but we're fine. Okay, sorry. So you made a motion.
John and I both seconded it, so.
Okay.
You can have it.
Okay.
Are these the ones that no action is needed, or are these, okay.
Yeah, I think there was missing check or a missing word or.
All this is just approving the technical correction.
Yeah. So there's a motion by member Stevens, a second by member Weber. All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, vote passes 6-0. Item 7.02, policy 7430, safety standards. Technical correction on this one.
Again, I move to approve item 7.02, policy 7430, safety standards with the technical correction as presented.
A motion by member Stevens, a second by member Oloriaga. Any questions or comments? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. 7.03, which is policy 0166, agenda, second reading and approval.
I move to move policy 0166 agenda to final reading or final approval, sorry.
That's approving it on second reading.
It's already at second reading, right? So this would be our final approval. Is that right?
Yeah. We're approving it for good.
Forever, Aaron.
You'll hear me on the next one. I'll second.
That was a motion by member Stoltz, a second by member Oloriaga. Any questions or comments? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. 7.04, policy 5451, student recognition, second reading and approval.
I move to approve 7.04, policy 5451, student recognition on second reading.
Second.
That was a motion by member Stevens and a second by member Oloriaga. Any questions or comments? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. 7.05, which is policy 3362.01, which is a technical correction. Threatening and or intimidating behavior towards staff members, second reading and approval.
I snorted. I moved to approve. That's a lot moved to form. I moved to approve 7.05. Policy 3362.01, technical correction, threatening and or intimidating behavior towards staff members, up on second reading.
I'll second.
It's a motion by member Stevens, a second by member Aloriaga. Any questions or comments? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. 7.06, revised policy 5350, student suicide awareness and prevention, second reading and approval.
I make a motion to approve policy 5350, student suicide awareness and prevention.
Second.
It's a motion by member Breton and a second by member Stevens. Any questions or comments? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
We are just all one. All those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. 7.07, revised policy 5517.01, bullying, first reading.
Madam President, I move policy 5517.01, bullying to second reading.
Second.
A motion by member Stevens, a second by member Aloriaga. Any questions or comments? All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. 7.08, policy 5870, student production of goods and services, first reading.
I move item 7.08, policy 5870, student production of goods and services to second reading.
Second.
A motion by member Stoltz, a second by member Stevens. Questions or comments?
I'm commenting on previous policies. According to our technical corrections policy, those are to go in consent items on the agenda. So I guess unless we want to change this policy, those would not have to go through the first and second reading.
I do think Ms. Elsmeyer, she did reach out, I believe, to Neola, and I don't remember quite where they landed, but that's why she put technical correction, so we can follow up with her.
Well, then because either we need to change your technical corrections policy because that's what it says.
Oh, the actual technical corrections policy.
The actual policy that she's attached to all these technical corrections.
Oh, okay.
So just to follow up.
No, that's a good note.
I'm sure your agenda guys can take care of that. Something else. Sorry.
Let me write that down.
I'm like, why is this? Because it's the first time we've had this policy included. It's the first time I can recall ever having technical
Yeah,
corrections.
I think that's what she followed up. And, yeah. Okay.
And whatever the answer is, I mean, they can go through the normal process.
What you're saying, John, is it presents technical difficulties.
It's a bit of a challenge.
Okay.
Following our own policy and policing ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Vote passes 6-0. Item 7.09, which is policy 8210, school calendar, first reading.
I move 7.09, policy 8210, school calendar to second reading.
Second.
That is a motion by member Stoltz and a second by member Stevens. Any questions or comments? There's no policy attached in this one. So we need to make sure that we get that added back into board docs.
Yeah, I would table it. The public hasn't seen it either.
Okay.
I'll withdraw my motion.
We have to vote on your withdrawal.
No, I think just the whoever seconded it has to
I'll
withdraw.
withdraw my second.
Okay. So looking for a motion to table policy 8210.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by member Stoltz, a second by member Steven. All those in favor of tabling policy 8210 school calendar until the policy is attached, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Passes 6-0. Up next, other discussion. So, member Stoltz, do we have an update from the redevelopment commission?
Yeah, so we have met twice since we were last here, the redevelopment commission. We do have $1,253,000 that has been allotted to RCS. So we need to be considering some of our options and possibilities in regards to maybe submitting an application. It sounds like Mrs. Scalf has an idea that she's going to present at some point, and I don't know where she is on that. As far as, do we know, Dr. Wright, how, like, is that something she's going to be presenting to us soon, or is that like a month or two from now, or?
I believe first what we'd love to do is present you all with some of the ideals, even in an executive session.
Okay.
And or even a work session. And then from there, bring our recommendations.
Okay, great.
After we've received your feedback.
Okay. Well, everybody has been eager to hear, what our thoughts are on the RDC. And they, again, have reiterated this money is waiting for you. And so I believe Ron brought up a good point in email correspondence, just that was saying we probably need to maybe make some decisions, because I don't know if that's a forever waiting for you. And so it would be nice
it's not a commitment per se until you get the check.
Yeah. So we got money to spend. As a reminder, just it does sound like we need to keep in mind things that will affect the community, in deciding on a project to apply for. So the McGuire Hall was a perfect example of how that all came together, and McGuire Hall affects a lot of people in our community. And so just keeping that in mind would kind of give us a good idea for what we should maybe go for in our application. Michael, did you have a question?
No, I was asking an example of that. So, but then you gave me the McGuire Hall. So
Yep. So McGuire Hall brings in a lot of community members. It's, attached to the art museum, which is attached to the high school. There are a lot of components there that means that it's touching a lot of community members, which is a good way to think of, okay, how do we want to go about the next application? How can we make sure that it touches a lot of community members?
And our goal, I was specifically going to say, our goal is to have such ideals to you all within the next week or two.
Okay.
Super.
I might add out, I guess I was super disappointed when I heard, the two things when we did McGuire Hall was AV, and I heard about the fly over and over. And to have that project not be complete that serves our students. I don't know what happened, but I guess maybe operations and you, Mr. Wright, or Dr. Wright, can fill us in. I hope before the next meeting is why that project was not completed. I've said many times through that process, mics, and I don't know as much about the fly, but I knew they didn't have enough mics. And to hear that after spending $1 million of tax money was pretty frustrating. So if maybe that can be a phase 2. With the redevelopment commission money, I'd like to explore that. But I was just disappointed to hear.
When was that done? What year?
That's
2
what I was,
years ago.
what I was going to ask is that, you
Right.
share that with me, if you can share such questions, because I believe that was before my arrival. I know it was
Okay.
coming to completion,
Yeah.
to fruition as I was transitioning the role.
4
You can
years
share
ago.
those questions and some of those details that were, because this is the person I've heard of, Mike's and,
I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, that was what I was in favor for. That we were going to have things that our drama department could use to put shows on. And to hear 4 years later,
yeah,
they don't have it.
but yeah, if you,
So while we painted it and it looks nice and we have fancy new furniture, that's secondary. I mean that. So
I guess, John, what you're saying is that if we do get this $1.2 million and we use it for community service, I guess in operations we need to have a phase 1, 2, 3. Hey, this is where we're at, just like we do with the architect, and making sure that this job gets completed in a timely manner and that it's done correctly.
well, we could just. And I think we just need to follow up and see what happened, and if there's money available, maybe that's a good project for this to move ahead.
Absolutely.
So, but I just it was really important to me at the time, and to think it didn't get done is pretty frustrating.
I guess I would be interested in knowing, I know Mrs. Skelf was in charge of that project at the time. I would be interested in maybe you reaching out to her just to get kind of, what did get done as far as, with that project. It would be helpful for those who weren't on the board to have some of that historical perspective. And I think it also would be good to know, how much of that actually got completed. Because I remember having those conversations about microphones and lighting, and we thought we were getting X, Y, and Z. Did we actually get X, Y, and Z? And then later it was discovered that, and also the flies, or, just, it'd be good to know.
I'll definitely find out. And as you all are thinking back through those times, if there's something else that comes to mind, give me an email, because yes, these are all things that, I'm hearing for the first time.
Before your time.
Yeah, before my arrival, but I definitely want to get to the bottom of it.
Now, what was that also the project that involved the HVAC and?
Yeah, that was a
Because I think it was a matter of priorities, and my recollection, and that's really, I don't put a lot of confidence in.
I think the priority
But was that environment, if you will.
Yes.
The environment in the gallery areas was a primary, was a priority, and that was coming to us not just from. That was coming to us from RAM and their board, as well as the operations.
So those were two different things. The HVAC that was in the galleries, that was addressed with the capital campaign that RAM did, and raised all of that money. It was under 2 million, but it was like 1.7, 1.8 million dollars that RAM put into our facilities, RCS owned facilities, to do the HVAC. And a large component of that was humidity control for the artwork. Separately, the HVAC was put in because it was free air conditioning with McGuire. That was RDC largely funded. We also, as RCS, contributed to that, but those were two different HVACs, like projects, and two different funding sources. So does that help explain?
I think I recall that, but I also recall that there was a problem with the art with the.
RAM has had a huge, yes, the
day.
humidity was the issue, and that has since been resolved after like 2 or 3 years. It was a huge ongoing problem. But yeah, that got resolved. But to your point, I think the primary component of the McGuire remodel or, upgrade was getting the HVAC in there because it was virtually unusable over the summer with no air conditioning. So I think that was number one. And then again, depending on your view, number 2/3 were the theater components, and then the decor, everything getting updated. So yeah, more than anything, I think it'd be good to just kind of like review that and get the specifics just so people can be like, okay, what happened, what got done, what maybe fell through the cracks, like John's saying, okay, we thought we were getting this, but did we not get that at some point? Or maybe that really never was an actual thing that we said for sure. Maybe we thought we did, but it'd be good to
I'd be
Okay.
interested in just an education for myself on who uses that facility. I mean, is it only the drama club, or are there others? Are there other things that are needed, or are there, or I guess those things.
I know
would
there's
need to
dance
understand.
recitals there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did just find, I was just trying to do a quick search. On September 23rd, 2020, there's an item 6.01 that says McGuire Hall, but there's nothing, or I can't see it. I think I would have access looking back, but that might be a good date to
Yeah.
look at.
September.
Look at September 23rd, 2020. I'm sure it says board reports discussion. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah.
Well, and some of this, I know, I think Sean Dingworth has had some thoughts that he's wanting to share with the board in general, so he can give some of that historical, some of that when he comes at some point and kind of share, his thoughts and input. Yep. That's it on RDC. Unless you guys have questions.
I have a quick question.
No, I'm just gonna go back to the original point that John was making. And especially after honoring the
players,
the
the Red
group
Devil players.
tonight. You find out about the need for additional microphone or sound system and everything else, something that's gonna be viable. The play that I saw was outstanding, okay, but it was limited in regards to the sound system. Plus, to hear one plugin on the stage.
That was ridiculous.
I just, okay, so there were a lot of lights. There were a lot of lights and a lot of electricity that was being used during that. And last thing I want to have is a major situation, because then that does spread through over, and then we go back to the system, everything else. I'd be very interested in finding out, moving forward, the cost of a sound system. If the decor was upgraded and some of the other things were upgraded, still, that's to an extent a Band-Aid on an ugly sore, without that sound system, and also viable electricity or electrical outlets there. So I want to see it continue to grow, but it won't grow.
And I'm guessing that's a fire hazard if they've got a whole bunch of stuff plugged in. Yeah, so that
my
kind
2
of
cents worth.
scares me.
Okay, great. Moving on to item 9, open forum, 9.01. I do have something I wanted to bring up. I could assume that probably a couple of board members have had community members reach out to us about some facility usage, more specifically around some sport field rentals and usage, and either miscommunication, the policies around them for cost of the rentals. And like I said, obviously, like, we community members reach out to us, but I think we probably just need some clarification. I know Ms. Scalf is not here today. I think
she's right here.
Oh, sorry. I've never been hiding the whole time. That's her trick. Good ask you. Just if I tried to look through some policies, I think we've got a couple that are contradictory. And we've got one that's like we won't charge for some community partners.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that says, the board has facility usage, but then there's not a dollar figure attached. So I know if we've got nonprofits reaching out that want to use a building or a sports field, the charge that I think they may have been told was
Outrageous.
yeah,
It's just
for a nonprofit. So I wanted to bring it to the board of, do we really, I think maybe we need to look at kind of what those charges are, how we can facilitate and let all of our community partners use them. And I think the biggest thing I was hearing is just kind of the communication piece of, if they weren't charged in the past and now all of a sudden, they're 2 months down the line of trying to get practices scheduled or games, and now it's like, oh, it's going to be $150 an hour. You know, they're trying to get things organized. So, but I don't know if these discussions have been had. Like I said, I tried to dig into the policies, and maybe it's the two policies we can bring to one of the next policy meetings. But if anyone else might, I know a couple people have probably heard some things about this, but it seemed a little like, wait, what's going on? Because I know we charge, but I don't know if it's consistent. Like that's kind of the
problem. It needs to be
that's the
consistent.
problem. And I think if you're a for-profit versus a non-profit, that's got to be completely different. Or there's got to be a different negotiated rate for what we have, and it needs to be clear.
Yeah.
Maybe that needs to be in the policy specifically too, so that people know what they're walking into. So
Yes.
And what you're saying is that something that we'll discuss at the next policy meeting.
yeah, I think it'll be a good step if we. I looked those two up. I can get them to you, just so we can. Because as we move into summer, and we've talked about camps and different extracurriculars, and I think we've got to really lock that down. Just make sure so it's clear. So if anyone's even thinking, they might think there's a really high cost, and then there might not be. We don't want to deter people. We want to work with them, especially if we've got different organizations that act as feeder programs, and because we don't have a lot of sports, we don't have a lot of things that go down to that level. So
I think I probably speak for a lot of nonprofits, but let me just speak as a community member, as a parent. The more that I get involved with Richmond Community Schools, the more I get involved in the sense of being on our facilities and seeing what my kids or kids in the area in the community can come to and play to, is a great opportunity for us. And I think we need to, like you said, understand that these programs could be feeder programs in the future, regardless of sport. But we need to have a consistent policy that states, "Hey, across the board, this is what we want. But we want you to be part of us. We are inclusive. We want you to come to our facilities." And so I think if we have that clear policy, I think it'd be great.
I think the board has, there's been multiple discussions. I would consider myself an open door. I think we're a community facilities, and whether you attend RCS or not, you have the right to, your taxes are paid for these facilities.
Correct.
That's my personal opinion. Other people have expressed that, no, using those facilities, you need to be part of the program and students should attend. And I think that's an equally valid. I don't know that this board has had a clear direction or has had discussion in the last few years. I think there's the worry that, if we have a program that benefits, let's say it's a soccer program and there's 6 kids from Centerville, 3 from Northeastern, 2 from Hagerstown, and 10 from Richmond, boy, we're a minority. But I think you make the argument that I think that's good for RCS. I've always said, open the doors, let people come and see, then they'll make the informed decision if they want to be here or not. And I think that's our best tool to market Richmond. But I think that discussion probably needs to happen, and maybe through the policy, because I know it was just last year we went bent over backwards to promote a program that seems to be hitting a brick wall this year, and that's kind of frustrating. As because people, when you work for one of these small nonprofits that has no money, you beg, borrow, and steal, and do the best you can. You don't have $150 an hour to rent Live Field.
No, you don't.
So
I think you're correct. I think every community, regardless of what school you come to, the opportunity to come to Live Field, to Tiernan Center, to McGuire Hall, to to any type of function, our nonprofits do a lot for the community, for the small children that are going to be future high school students, future wherever high school they go to. But if we have an open door policy that gives them the opportunity to see our facilities, to see, um, you know, the majestic Tiernan Center and the Libo Field that what we offer, it gives us a leg up. And I think if we have that open door policy, I think a lot of nonprofits will be accepting and also plan accordingly. They can plan for the season, upcoming seasons, because we have this policy stated in our as a in our policy agenda. So I agree.
If we are Richmond, and in my opinion, that does not solely stand for we are Richmond Community Schools. But I mean, if we're going to be reflective of the overall community as a whole, some of the people that will come, the students, the young people who will come and use our facilities, they may live in the fringe, they may live outside of Richmond whatsoever. But if we do make it part of a policy to extend whatever services that we can, especially to those nonprofits who may be struggling financially, it says a lot about who we are. Because if they're so thoughtful of thinking, well, let's use their facilities, let's ask them to use their facilities or be a part of something that they're doing, they may never come here, but the words out of their mouth may be very, very complimentary of, well, I go to this school, or my children go to this school, but we participated in this program, that was offered at a facility of Richmond Community Schools. And that can be a very telling selling point for a lot of people. It may get a student to come back or even a student to come here. It may or may not. But the bigger thing is if it's a reflection of who we stand for and should stand for as a community school corporation, regardless of where they come from, we want to be mindful of that. That's my thought.
And I think that's that welcoming message. We are Richmond. We are a community. We represent, the best of the best. And we want those nonprofits to be welcomed to our facilities. I agree.
We'd rather have them come here than anywhere
Well,
else.
yeah,
Sure.
Absolutely.
That's the point.
Well, it's like you want to show off this amazing field. And I think, especially with this, why it came up too is, it's a group that wasn't charged last year. They were making their schedule. I think it affects 3 teams that are now forced to figure out how to work off of one field by the state hospital, right? Where they all got to practice and play on Libel for free last year. So,
Here's another thing, Kim. Not to interrupt you, but when you have other areas that they're playing coming to Libel Field, I mean, you're talking Carmel, you're talking Mount Vernon, you're talking other areas that look at our facilities and hey, look at Richmond, look what they're doing here. Their teams are playing on a great field. I mean, it sends a message to not just Richmond, but it sends a message to the state that what we are doing and how we're doing it is welcoming. It does send a message.
Yeah, I just don't want partners to feel like a bait and switch, right? They, are trying to go by what happened in the past, and that's not fun. Like that feels like we don't care.
Yep.
And it shouldn't, And if there's miscommunication, it should be talked about. And, hey, okay, let's figure something out for now. We can readdress. But it seems to kind of hit a dead end. But so yeah, I just wanted to make sure we address that. So
one of the things I'm curious to learn is a few things. First, to hear that the conversation has come up in the past, and receiving direction after it's thoroughly discussed and vetted in policy work session. But being a former principal, we would waive fees for some nonprofits and other community partners. However, there also would still be fees associated with personnel, whether it be custodial or because when push comes to shove, no matter what, if we have programs of the weekend, oftentimes that requires said custodians from respective buildings that only know their buildings best to come in and serve if they so choose. And then ultimately, in the end, especially with extracurriculars, no matter what, by Monday morning, the buildings have to be ready to receive students for academic purposes. And so I'm curious to see how much of the how much across the board in all things, whether it be performing arts or athletics. And then definitely want to hear from our athletic department receive their input as to maybe some rationale behind. It sounds like there may be some miscommunication.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily about anyone wanting it for free. It's just about the communication, right?
Absolutely.
If we've got a certain group coming in and kids are, it could be a camp, it could be anything, and they're charging the kids, and then all of a sudden, they realize we can't afford where we thought we were going to have a facility, right? It's the communication so they can plan whether they have to raise fees or they have to, that's the piece that needs to be discussed. But I think, of course, like the upkeep of things, maybe it's not practice, maybe it's kids, maybe it's there's so many different things that can go into it. But like I said, when I pulled the policies, they were contradicting.
So that's why
Not contradicting, just one was, oh yeah,
Well, confusing.
yeah.
That's what I mean.
And then there might be something within the athletic department. It's got to be that outlines fees, but I don't know where that is.
And you can share those policies.
Yeah.
Because the push thing to shove, you all heard me say time again, systemic alignment. So there's the opportunity to systemically align what it is we're doing and be consistent.
Yeah.
So even if we go beyond, you'd mentioned athletics. Let's forget athletics across the board right now. Okay, I can guarantee you within the next few months there are going to be several nonprofit organizations who are working on partnering with our elementary schools for Crime Watch and neighborhood watches, who would like to use some of our neighborhood facilities, our neighborhood schools, elementary schools, to hold like quarterly meetings or a meeting every other month. These are the parents and the grandparents of the people who look after our kids on their way to and from school, who support the PTAs, PTOs, and all. Plus, it goes back to the way schools were when I was little. The doors were always open for neighborhoods, not just during the morning of an educational day, but also in the evening, because it invited in. That school was the partner of the neighborhood, and that's why there was so much engagement with the people, and they became the greatest supporters of not only the facility but the education, the faculty, the staff, and those. So it's upcoming. Athletics is just one aspect of it, but I mean we can be greater partners in so many ways with the community. So
And so speaking as you referenced it again, I'm a history teacher, I'm not going to turn this into a history lesson, but schools were always the community's home base, the neighborhood's home base for communal order and engagement, interaction.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and I would be very cautious as to, for nickel and diming. I mean, I think, if you're going to have a $30 facility charge to pay a custodian, I mean, yes, that's minimal, and yes, there's maybe here. I hope we don't go there, I guess, is what I'd like for today. I mean, because we get a lot of that. The reason we do that isn't only for the community, it's for us. We get a lot of value by having people in our facilities, using our facilities. We're going to judge Hutchinson to have their championship game on live. I mean, I couldn't imagine such a thing. But I think our policies, some say we should. So
again, I guess we gotta have clarity on that.
I think and I agree with opening up our schools to our communities, but as from a teacher's point of view, from having been in a building that was used and people coming into my classroom, even I left my classroom door locked and different there were groups that met. There were times we couldn't have the literacy night we wanted to because this group met. There were times that my classroom or other areas, things were torn off the wall. I know that has to do with management, but someone has to manage because I wasn't there. The principal wasn't there all the time. And there may be someone in charge. So I just want to be aware of teachers and the space that we bring our students in for learning and the academics that is our priority.
I would say historically from the past when we were using 30 years ago, 25 years ago, Vail and Star and Westview for, regular meetings with community people in regards to safety and security in their neighborhoods. They were always held in the cafeteria. Those were never used.
Yeah, ours were too. It was always always was in the cafeteria. But the
It
kids,
does feel
when
like
they
a
go, they
weird,
run to
like,
the
personal-
restroom or they ran through the
room.
school.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just want to be aware of the safety of people in our buildings and the students.
Said with Fort Wayne County here this winter, they used to carry.
Okay, great. Any
I-
other items?
I did have one other thing. So, I spent a day at dentist today. Mrs. Roberts she teaches intro to business class and she's doing a marketing unit. And so she asked me to come in as someone who is in the marketing profession, and as a marketing coordinator for Stoltz Family Dentistry. And then also, because of some of the work that I've done as far as, shooting commercials, just wanting to expose the kids to what careers could look like in marketing. So I just wanted to say, first of all, the kids were super attentive. They asked good questions. Several of them expressed an interest in pursuing different degrees or careers in marketing or producing commercials. So I was just very encouraged and thought others would want to know of the very positive things that are going on at Dennis. And just also as we're focusing on career pathways, just that was an excellent tie-in. Kudos to Mrs. Roberts for having, someone, whether it's myself or whoever in the community that is actively doing what she is teaching. I thought that was a great tie-in. And, she went through the effort of recruiting someone to have them say, okay, this is someone in the community who's doing what we're teaching about. So I just thought it was a great experience. So
That's awesome. Great. Okay. Preview of upcoming meetings and events. Our next school board meeting is Wednesday, April 23rd at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you, Katrina, and trustee, if you don't mind, I apologize. If we can revert back to open poll. The only thing, only reason I asked why is because, as has been the case in the past, student transit and transportation have provided us with updates, and there is and has been a bright discovery that I think they'd like to share this evening if possible, just for maybe a minute or two, that I think many folks have been waiting for. And so with that, I'm going to ask that Mr. Scott, along with our representatives from Student Transit and our transportation department, join Mrs. Scout at the podium. I think they're all rather reluctant and probably apprehensive about coming forward, but Mrs. Scout, if you don't mind introducing who's with us and introducing some of the great news to share.
Yeah, so with me tonight is, Mr. Waddle. He's the Vice President of Operations for Student Transit. I also have Angela Linville and Tim Rowe, who are our new leadership team out at the office at the bus garage. And we have some really exciting updates tonight for you. So Tim and Angie have been absolutely essential in taking on the software transition that we started last summer. And we are now at a point where we are at a full go live very soon. And so that work has been really exciting, and it is going to be extremely beneficial for our drivers. They will have turn by turns that they have never been able to experience before that work through like Google, so that we can have live updates when a road is closed sometimes. So that will be really nice, and it will help when we have substitute drivers, as well as we have nearly ready for you a parent application for students to track. So I am going to let them kind of give you some highlights and some things they've been working on, and then we have a very special video for you that we're going to roll out to our families later this week.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Dr. Wright. Appreciate it. We've been working extremely hard on Traversa. We know how vital it is and how important it is to the transportation end of things here at the school. Traverse is going to be fantastic. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be great. There's going to be bugs we've got to work through, like any other program, any other implementation of anything you do. But I know from watching previous board meetings, believe it or not, I do watch the YouTube, so I try to keep up on things. Even before I was with Student Transit, I was interested. But I know some of the members had concerns about the app. We've already had some parents do some testing for us. They love it. They absolutely love it. I even had one mother the other day. Her little one is a pre-K, goes to Cresttown, and she said the little one every morning watches the bus. Mr. Jeff was here tonight. He had to leave, but he watches the bus in the app. Gets excited when Mr. Jeff's getting close. So she loves it. The kids love it. Notifications, block away. Hey, bus is coming. So as far as the trouble we've had, I think we're not shying away from the troubles we've had.
Yeah.
But moving forward, those are going to be taken care of. It's a new day. That's all I've got to say about it. Thank you all for having us.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Wright, board, thank you for letting me come tonight. I was here a couple weeks ago with our president COO. I guess it's been a little over a month ago. And I know we went through some struggles in the past. We've made some changes. Just to give you some of the highlights, obviously, the new program, Traverse It, is up and running. Our go live for the entire district is April 21st. That is a week earlier than what we projected. So that is all to the team. They're doing a great job. Just on one of the biggest struggles, it seems like in the past, has been drivers. Keeping drivers, getting drivers here. Well, to the team, the training team and everything, we currently have 25 full-time routes running. And we have 6 subs. I'm happy to say by the 3rd week of May, we will actually be up to 35 drivers. We will be adding 7 routes, 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle school. There will be 2 McKinney-Ventos routes dedicated now, and 1 life service. So that will bring us up to 32 total routes before the end of the school year.
By life service, are you talking about life skills?
Life skills, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
I can't even read my own writing.
That's okay.
I was writing notes as I was setting out the car, so I apologize. I can't even read my own writing.
You're good.
But this is all to the team. It's with just the right leadership and support from the community. And I just want to say thank you all for the support that you've given us and the belief you've had in us to make this work. We appreciate the relationship, and anything we can do, please just let us know. Do you all have any questions for us?
I just have one comment. I just want to give a shout out to Tim and Angie. You guys, I think, really, really made a difference. Not just leaving you out.
Oh, no.
I mean, obviously, if there's bus issues, it's mine. I know how to break a system. But you guys have been fantastic and follow up. And as a parent, I see the difference with issues like Tim, your updates, like. It's just the little things that really help, even if it's not my bus. I feel like it helps because it might throw something else off, and that, as a parent, I'm kind of always thinking so the 2 of you, thank you. Because, yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome news to hear. Any other feedback?
Mr. Waddle, Mr. Tim, Ms. Angie, for sure. We appreciate you all, as has been the case since I've been in this role, and the leadership before you. You all hear us, and you work hard to meet the call. And understanding that right now on paper, we're in great shape through actions, as Mr. Tim alluded to, we'll find out where we have areas of improvement, and I'm confident that you all will seek to continue to improve and get better. And, so we thank you.
Thank you all.
And I just want to say, for the very first time since pre-COVID, we will be fully staffed. That's saying something. So we have been trying so hard for years to get here, and we are finally here. So kudos to them, because they really, when we had that change, they really took it by the horns and said, we're going to get this done, and they did. The training team, they are fantastic. Oh my gosh.
He is one of our drivers, our longtime drivers, and he came back specifically for this purpose. And he has been amazing. Just and he teaches how. I mean, we know you meet your students, right? He does the very same thing, where they are and how they learn. And so it has been a really fantastic thing to watch everybody just come together and make it happen. With high expectations, we have had some tough meetings, haven't we, in the last few weeks? But high expectations and just seeing that result in really good, safe buses. As we continue to make progress, we will see that even more. So that's really good. Mhm.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep everybody, but sitting back here, I heard we are Richmond. Okay, we are a part of Richmond, right? And I just want to give a shout out to our team. On my way home from the state finals a couple weeks ago, right? It's after midnight. I was with some buddies in the car, and I get a call from Mrs. Scout. Sprinkler system had busted in an apartment complex downtown with some elderly people live, and they needed help. And our team jumped out, took the call. After midnight, we were up to 3 a.m, getting people to hotels, getting them in place. And then the next morning, getting them back home when everything was all clear. A couple weeks before that, there was a nursing home fire. Everybody was on their way en route to get the help to our fellow citizens, right? Fire department called it off, said everything's okay, we're good. But we're in a thunderstorm. You know, everybody dropped everything. We have an outstanding crew that works their tail off. And I just want to bring that, to everybody's attention and shout out to our staff. We've got great people. So just want to let y'all know. Thank you. Thank you.
I 100% concur with that. He took my call at midnight, and Andy takes my call about 5:30 on a Saturday morning. So it really is. It's a whole team. So just can't give them enough thanks and praise for what they do. So we are excited. We're going to roll this out to our parents, but we wanted you guys to see it first. Bridget has done a really great job of making sure that this is RCS that we're showing, and we're just excited to show you what this is going to look like. So let her roll.
Welcome to the Richmond Community School District My Ride K-12 app direction video. This video will show you how to register your student in the My Ride K-12 app. It will give you your student's bus information, including bus number, bus stop location, and pickup and drop-off times. The first step is to visit the App Store on your smartphone and download the My Ride K-12 app. Now that you have downloaded the app, log in with your email and password. Press the Add button. Please check your parents' phone account for a recent message. Attached to that message is your child's student access ID number. If you are having difficulties locating your student ID number, please contact the school directly. At this point, you can add additional students with your student's ID, then confirm address and information. Press the share icon and add additional emails for guardians to view the transportation information. Press the bus location icon to view student busing information. This information panel gives bus number, scheduled days of the week, location, and time window for pickup. Scroll down to find the drop-off bus number, days, time, and location. Press the Details button to see your student information as well as the schedule. This schedule view will show you completed bus runs as well as upcoming trips. If you have any questions or need assistance setting up your account, you can reach the Richmond Community Schools Transportation Department by contacting Student Transit at 765-973-3449.
So we have had parents test it. They love it. We have had our very own Mr. Alex Hazelbaker work with Mr. Rao to try to break it, make it not work, find ways that it's not functional. And through the testing, we really feel like we're going to see some good results this time. So kudos to everybody that has been working really hard. And we will look forward to the 21st.
Thank you so much for letting us do.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was in our agenda, it had mentioned where we were gonna discuss the next, the May 14th meeting possibly. I didn't know if we should discuss that now, so it gives our public, over a month to, if we decide to change the time of that meeting.
Yes, so the May 14th meeting, we do have our spring school board.
Spring Region 6 meeting for ISBA.
So and generally, I think we start at 4. So we'll probably start that meeting May 14th, right?
It is.
I forgot to write that down. That meeting will start at 4 p.m. So we can have time to go eat some delicious food at Willie and Red's. And I always plan my dinner when I go there. So great, thanks for that reminder. Yeah, that was along with our next meeting, board meeting, which is April 23rd at 5:30. And then when is our next policy meeting? Remember, Brendan?
It is May 20th at 10 a.m.
I'm sure you had a great one yesterday. I was teaching.
Oh, we did. It was, we're moving through the policies and good discussions. It's open to the public.
Yep, so if anyone is invited to come, it's right here in the boardroom. So finally, our adjournment and bell ringer.
One last thing.
Yes.
Friday is the last legislative session at IU East. It's at 8 o'clock. Liaison. I'm sure you'll be there. It was a full house last time, so it'll be interesting to see what Representative Barrett and Senator Rotz can fill us in on the second half of the session. But it's definitely worth attending. It's a chance to talk to them directly and hear what's on other people's minds. So I would encourage everyone to attend.
Okay, yes.
This has nothing to do with education, or maybe it does. When everybody leaves, Mr. Mops and Miss Scalf know when you're going out the drive out here, it's
been blocked off.
Okay, good. Be very careful. Thank you. There was a deteriorating grate out there that was rather dangerous. So thank you, Miss Scalf, for taking care of that.
Okay, I think we might be ready for our adjournment.
President Pickering, trustees, I'm going to ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, our Director of Student Support Communications, rejoin us for this evening's bell ringer. And great narration, by the way, on the
That was
video.
so great. Music may be a little too loud, so I think I may need a
No,
little
I
bit of music.
I liked
It was
Being
good.
back there, I was like, no.
The wheels on the bus go round and round.
I know.
I was just about to
That's
say that.
copyright. All right. Anyway, we have a great big event tomorrow. So if you may have been checking out social media and seeing some of our photos, we have kindergarten preschool registration tomorrow. So that's from 5 to 7 at all 6 of our elementary schools. Star Elementary School is also hosting an immunization clinic from 5 to 7 with the Wayne County Health Department for parents to get up-to-date immunizations, vaccines for their students. And then Friday night, we're having our Doubleette showcase here at Civic Hall at 6:30. So if you can make it to that, if you can't make it to Friday night at 6:30, you have an opportunity to see Frozen Junior at Dennis Middle School. So in the auditorium, the students, our middle school drama club is having showing Frozen Junior, performing Frozen Junior 6:30 Friday night, 6:30 Saturday night, and 3 o'clock also on Sunday. And then they're also doing some student shows too. So the 5th graders from Test are coming over to see the show on Friday. So
Hibbert's going on Friday.
yeah, so we're real excited. Yeah, Hibbert students are also attending. So just have our kiddos and of course our staff leading these initiatives are just fantastic. So that's my bell ringer.
Meeting adjourned.